The management at Cosmo Films is now joining us. They declared their numbers. Numbers on a YOY basis are looking in slightly weak. Sir, if you could just explain the quarter for us. Was it impacted by demonetization in the previous quarter?
Yeah, so good morning. There are two impacts in the last quarter. The first impact is, we had the new line coming up adjacent to our existing lines, and we had to take certain shutdowns to commission a new line. So there's one very large one-off impact because of that, and then there is small impact on the volumes because of demonetization. But I think the other thing is that there was almost a 150 basis points reduction in our margins because of demonetization, because there was a overall drop in the volume in the industry. We were able to sell it fairly well because we did not get impacted on the volume side, but yes, the margins were marginally impacted because of demonetization as well. So there is a one-off impact, and then there is a demonetization margin impact actually to us.
And can you just tell us about the volumes in Jan? It has been normal, or it will still take some time?
Yeah, so I think the overall industry volumes have recovered, and I would say from February onwards we are seeing a growth again. So I would say November was not so good, December got a little better, January I think was more or less normal, and from February we are seeing growth coming back to the industry.
But even you expect Q4 on the volume front to be soft?
From Cosmo perspective, we see actually a growth in the volumes in the quarter 4, because one is our new line has started ahead of schedule in February itself, and our existing line. So as far as Cosmo is concerned, we should see a growth in the volumes for Cosmo.
Right, and with the new capacity that is coming up, it enhances the capacity by about 40-45%, so that gives you a significant bump up?
That's right. That's right. Obviously, there will be some ramping up time of the line, but you would see quite a significant growth in the volumes in the quarter 4 itself.
The investments that you have made would start to pay off now. Would that impact the ROE, because your company has very strong ROE of greater than 20% plus? Will this new plant impact that in the near term, or from the start itself it will be 20% plus?
It should impact very favorably because of two reasons. One is we have invested a very low capex on this line. We actually initially announced that we'll be spending 200 crores. We've actually been a little below even that level. The other thing is this line will have a much higher output than a normal line. So therefore the return on capital employed for this line will be actually superior to our existing lines. And whether in terms of return on capital employed, return on equity, or the turnover on the investment, all three ratios would look favorable after this new line.
Right. In terms of clients, can you just tell us that what was the current capacity utilization before the demonetization? How will this new plant, will this open up new avenues for you, new clients for you, which you were not catering in earlier? Is this a specialized product versus the existing plant? Can you just explain that to us?
Yes, so the volume drop in the last quarter was 6%, and as I said that it is not so much demonetization impact for us. It is more of a one-time line shutdowns that we had to take for commissioning the new line. The new line would actually give us a 40% jump in the volume. In the quarter 4, we'll see some of this impact because line has started mid of the quarter. It has started in February beginning. But as we move along, we should be able to see the entire ramp up of the volumes. And for Cosmo, domestic is not the only market. We look at the world market, and we continue to remain as the largest exporters from India. And therefore, we'll take some bite of the domestic growth which is happening in the market, but we would also like to take some growth overseas. As far as the specialty products are concerned, a specialty is showing a phenomenal growth, and what we are seeing is that as we are moving along, the growth on the specialty sales continue to pick up, because whatever efforts we are doing either on being a very customer focused, customer centric company, or launching the new products. Even in the last quarter we launched a very strong range of ultra high barrier products in the packaging segment. So you see that every quarter we launch new products, and that continues to increase our specialty as a percentage. Obviously with this new line, commodity mix would go up, because in the short term it would be difficult to put entire segment in the commodity. So one side we continue to ramp up our specialty sales. In the short term the commodity as a percentage would go up, but the new line is far more efficient. So there should be some improvement in our commodity margins also driven by this new line.
I was just looking at the presentation, and one of the key focus that you're saying is improvement at EBITDA levels. Have you identified how are you going to do it?
Yes, so there are plenty of things. So there are multiple things that are going to happen. The first itself is that demonetization effect is more or less now over. So the margins which were under pressure in quarter 3, we should not see that same pressure in quarter 4. Second thing is our specialty sales continue to move upward and they have significantly better margins. Third thing is that the new line has a far lesser operating cost than the existing lines. Fourth is our fixed assets, fixed costs as a percentage to sales will come down, because we have hardly increased our fixed cost for the new line. And so all these things put together should help us improve our EBITDA margins.
So what were your EBITDA margins in the third quarter, and how much do you think they'll expand by, say, another 6 months from now?
Yeah, it will be difficult to give a forecast at this stage because there are so many things going on at the same time. At India level, we were roughly at 11% in the last quarter. And there was actually a dip of 2%, largely because of the volume drop and the demonetization that we had in last quarter.
But because of the new line and the backward integration, the lower cost, any calculations on at least the minimum cost saving on the margin benefit that comes from it?
Yes, so the new line from an operating cost, I can tell you in terms of, the rupee per kilo or as a percentage impact. But then there's a lot of growth happening in the specialty side also. In the midterm, there'll be a change of mix in that, the commodity and specialty. But as in general, I can say, yes, the margins are going to improve in the near term. How much percentage, I don't think so. Neither we believe in giving those forecasts, and nor I'll be fully prepared to give that answer right now.
What was the hit to volume growth in the third quarter, and what are you penciling in going ahead? You're saying everything is back to normal now.
Yeah, so there was a 6% drop in the last quarter. So what we are going to see in quarter 4 is, one is that 6% will certainly be back, and the other thing is the new line ramp up. So every week that ramp up is happening. So we should see clearly kind of a double-digit growth happening in quarter 4 over previous quarter. And as we move along, the potential is almost 40% to our volumes.
Right. Because of the crude oil increase, is there any pressure on the bottom line? Are you looking at announcing price hikes to pass it on to customers?
Yes, so in our industry, it's very straightforward. The polypropylene, whether it goes up or goes down, it kind of completes passed on. So in our case, there should not be any impact. In the short term, definitely there's a positive impact because every customer wants more material. Everybody wants to play on that extra cost increase that's going to happen. So the demand goes up, and therefore in the short term, yes, there could be some positive upside because of that. But generally it's passed on whether it goes down or it goes up.
And what about demand? Is that also shaping up well? Could there be near-term disruptions because of GST, because of change of stocking, anything that you are penciling in?
Yes, so I think two things, within this. One is Indian industry has been growing at 12 to 14% when it comes to BOPP film. And I would say the global as well as Indian phenomena has been on the BOPP film is that it grows anywhere between 1.5 times to 2 times of the GDP. And we expect same thing to happen from India. The other thing is today India is one of the most cost competitive industries even on the commodity on the BOPP film, and therefore the potential is actually huge for India. Third thing is China continues to get more and more expensive on these films, and we see that threat from China is actually reducing, and India is taking gradually the lead place in this. So I think all those things are very positive overall for the industry as such.
Right. So as far as, last time around when the industry saw such a big boom, after that you saw a big decline as well in the prices and the acceptability of the products as well. Do you think this time around the product mix has sufficiently changed and at least the specialty products may not see a major decline?
Yeah, actually what really happened, I think we are referring to 2011-12. What happened in that year is that it's not BOPP but PET globally was in a shortage. And so there was a very big boom in the PET business as such. If you really see BOPP, there was no shortage, but in some of the places, BOPP took some share from the PET industry as such. If you really see, in fact, that's another opportunity sitting for Indian players in BOPP industry, because in India, the BOPP consumption versus PET is still much lower than the global standards. And therefore, there's a big potential sitting there. We are ourselves educating the converters and the brands that BOPP is a far more sustainable material. It has many benefits in terms of cost, in terms of the density benefits it gives, in terms of the barrier properties which are required in the food industry. So we feel that all those are opportunities ahead of us.
Right. If I look at your client list, it includes names like Cadbury, names like Britannia, who's and who's of FMCG sector. Can you just tell us the sense that you're getting from them? Is there a recovery in the consumption demand after November and December being a decline, or still the demand seems to be very low?
I think the demand is more or less fully recovered and we see a phase of growth. So I don't think so that that sustained for too long. It was a very short time kind of a blip, and things are back to normal.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time for us. Always good to hear from you. 3% down as far as Cosmofilm is concerned. The management explaining there were a couple of one-offs regarding expansion capacity as well as demonetization, which impacted the numbers. Cosmofilms is down close to 3%. Taking a break, coming back in 2 minutes.